through the trapdoor. The three friends huddled together in the empty common room, whispering urgently as the fire crackled down to its final embers. Harry adjusted their pronoun pin nervously while Hermione consulted what appeared to be a hand-drawn map covered in feminist theory annotations. "So let me get this straight," Rahmad al-Waziri said, pulling his prayer beads through his fingers anxiously. "We're really going to break into the forbidden corridor to stop someone from stealing the gender-critical stone." "It's not breaking in if we're preventing a hate crime," Hermione declared, her voice carrying that particular tone she got when she was about to launch into a lecture. "This is clearly an act of resistance against heteronormative oppression. The gender-critical stone represents the fluidity of identity itself, and whoever's trying to steal it obviously wants to impose binary thinking on the entire wizarding world." Harry nodded solemnly. "Exactly. And since Dumbledore is off at his inclusive leadership retreat or whatever, which, by the way, how convenient is that timing? It's up to us to protect marginalized identities everywhere." Rahmad shifted uncomfortably. "But what if we get caught? I can't afford to get expelled. My parents already think I'm not devout enough because I'm friends with..." He gestured vaguely at Harry and Hermione. "Well, you know. A transgender witch and a queer feminist." Hermione supplied helpfully. "Rahmad, your parents need to understand that intersectionality includes religious identity. We're all fighting the same patriarchal system here." "Inshallah," Rahmad muttered, though he didn't sound entirely convinced. The trio made their way through the dark corridors, Harry's one providing the only light. Every shadow seemed to loom with heteronormative menace, and every creak of the old castle sounded like the approaching footsteps of gender-conforming oppressors. "Remember," Hermione whispered as they approached the forbidden corridor, "whatever challenges we face, they're probably metaphors for societal barriers faced by marginalized communities. We need to approach each one with intersectional thinking. And if that doesn't work, I'll just shout Allahu Akbar really loud," Rahmad added. "It tends to end conversations quickly." Harry paused at the corridor entrance. "Are we sure about this? I mean, what if we're wrong about the gender-critical stone? What if it's just a regular magical artifact?" "Harry," Hermione said, placing a supportive hand on their shoulder, "trust your instincts. Your lived experience as a transgender person gives you unique insight into systems of oppression. If you feel like this is connected to identity politics, then it probably is." They crept down the corridor, past Fluffy's door, which bore a new sign reading "Emotional Support Cerberus, please respect his boundaries," until they reached another door that none of them had noticed before. This door was unusual. "Oh my goddess," Hermione breathed, her face flashing red in the wand light. The door was shaped like an enormous rainbow-colored vulva, complete with what appeared to be a functional clitoris for a door handle. Sparkly labia majora formed the door frame, and the entire structure pulsed with a soft, sensual light that seemed to sync with some cosmic rhythm of feminine power. "That's..." Harry started, then stopped. "Is that what I think it is?" "It's a yonic portal," Hermione said, her voice filled with academic excitement. "This is incredible. It's a physical manifestation of divine feminine energy challenging the phallocentric architecture of traditional magical buildings. Don't you see? The patriarchy has been so focused on towers and wands, all phallic symbols, that they've completely ignored the sacred feminine." Rahmad stared at the door, his prayer beads clicking faster. I don't think I'm supposed to look at that. Is there a way to approach it with my eyes closed?" "Rahmad, you need to confront your internalized misogyny," Hermione said firmly. "This isn't about sexuality, it's about reclaiming female power from thousands of years of oppression. The vulva is a symbol of creation, of life itself." "But it's glowing," Rahmad protested weakly. "And making noises." Indeed, the door seemed to be emitting soft, rhythmic sounds that could charitably be described as enthusiastic breathing. Harry approached the clitoral door handle with determination. "We're here to fight oppression, right? Then we need to embrace all forms of resistance, even if they make us uncomfortable." As soon as Harry touched the handle, the door let out what could only be described as a satisfied moan and swung open with a wet, squelching sound that echoed through the corridor. "By the Prophet," Rahmad whispered, covering his eyes with one hand while trying to maintain his grip on his wand with the other. Beyond the door lay a spiral staircase that descended into darkness. The walls were covered in what appeared to be ancient fertility symbols and quotes from various feminist theorists. Harry could make out snippets as they descended. The personal is political, and the gender is a social construct, and down with the patriarchy. This is it, Hermione said, her voice trembling with excitement. We're literally descending into the womb of feminist consciousness. Do you realize what this means? Hogwarts has been hiding radical feminist architecture for centuries. As they descended, the staircase began to narrow, forcing them to walk single file. The walls seemed to pulse with organic warmth, and Harry couldn't shake the feeling that they were being slowly consumed by some enormous, politically aware creature. I feel like I'm being born again, Harry said, surprising themselves with the depth of the metaphor. Like I'm leaving behind my old, oppressed self and emerging as a true warrior for justice. That's exactly what's happening. Hermione exclaimed from behind them. This is a ritual space designed to facilitate consciousness raising and political awakening. The ancient witches must have built this as a safe space for challenging patriarchal norms. Ramad's voice came from the rear, muffled by his hands which were still covering his eyes. Can we please focus on not dying? Also, I think I'm supposed to be facing Mecca for my evening prayer soon, but I have no idea which direction we're going. After what felt like hours of descent, they finally emerged into a vast chamber. The walls were draped with rainbow flags and banners reading "Smash the Patriarchy" and "The Gender is a Spectrum." In the center of the room stood a massive statue of what appeared to be a diverse group of people in various states of self-actualization, some transitioning, some in hijabs, some holding protest signs. Magnificent, Hermione breathed. It's like the Lincoln Memorial, but for intersectional feminism. However, their artistic appreciation was cut short when they noticed that the chamber had 4 exits, each marked with a different symbol: a raised fist, a rainbow flag, a crescent moon, and a pair of scissors cutting through chains. Great, Harry said. More tests. But at least these ones seem to be celebrating diversity instead of, trying to kill us. Don't be so sure, Ramad said, finally uncovering his eyes now that they were in a less anatomically explicit space. In my experience, the most dangerous traps are the ones that look like they're on your side. Hermione was already examining the first door, marked with the raised fist. This one's obviously about solidarity and collective action. The fist is a universal symbol of resistance against oppression. As she approached the door, it swung open to reveal a room filled with what appeared to be a massive protest rally. Hundreds of magical beings, witches, wizards, house elves, centaurs, even a few confused-looking goblins, were marching in circles, chanting slogans and holding signs that read things like "End Magical Apartheid" and "House Elf Liberation Now." We have to join the protest, Hermione said immediately. This is clearly a test of our commitment to collective action. But we don't know what they're protesting, Harry pointed out. What if it's something we disagree with? Harry, that's exactly the kind of thinking that perpetuates oppression, Hermione said, already rolling up her sleeves. Sometimes you have to show solidarity even when you don't fully understand the struggle. That's what being an ally means. The 3 friends joined the protest, though Ramad kept muttering prayers under his breath and looking around nervously. They marched for what felt like hours, chanting along with slogans they didn't entirely understand, until finally a golden door appeared at the far end of the room. See? Hermione said triumphantly as they approached the exit. Collective action always works. The second room, marked with a rainbow flag, contained what appeared to be the world's most elaborate coming-out ceremony. A massive stage dominated the space, surrounded by thousands of empty seats. Spotlights illuminated a microphone stand in the center. Oh no, Harry said, immediately understanding what was expected of them. I have to come out. Again. In front of an imaginary audience. It's not imaginary, Hermione corrected. Look closer. Harry squinted at the seats and realized they were filled with translucent figures, the ghosts of every person who had ever struggled with their identity, every individual who had been forced to hide their true selves from an unaccepting world. They're all here, Harry whispered, recognizing some faces from their research into LGBTQ+ history. Every person who ever had to choose between authenticity and safety. Harry approached the microphone with trembling hands. The ghost audience leaned forward expectantly, and Harry realized that this wasn't just about them, it was about everyone who had ever been afraid to speak their truth. "My name is Harry Potter," they began, their voice shaking but growing stronger with each word. "And I am transgender. I spent years hiding who I really was, afraid that people would reject me or hurt me. But I've learned that living authentically isn't just about personal happiness, it's an act of resistance against everyone who wants to keep us invisible." The ghost audience erupted in applause, and Harry felt a warmth spread through their chest that had nothing to do with magic and everything to do with the power of community and acceptance. The third room, marked with the crescent moon, was Rahmad's challenge. As they entered, they found themselves in what appeared to be a vast mosque, but the walls were covered with images of diverse Muslims, women in hijabs holding protest signs, LGBTQ+ Muslims celebrating their identity, Muslim scholars debating the Quran with feminist theologians. "This is incredible," Rahmad said, his voice filled with wonder. "It's showing me that my faith doesn't have to conflict with my friendships or my support for social justice. There's room in Islam for all of this." A prayer mat appeared in the center of the room, and Rahmad knelt down to pray. But instead of the traditional prayers he'd been taught, he found himself speaking from the heart about acceptance, about the beauty of diversity, about the God he believed in who created all people in their infinite variety. When he finished, the room filled with the sound of thousands of voices saying community in harmony, and another golden door appeared. The final room, marked with scissors cutting through chains, was the most challenging yet. It contained what appeared to be a vast library, but instead of books, the shelves were filled with chains, locks, and barriers of every conceivable type. In the center of the room stood a massive pair of golden scissors. "The chains of oppression," Hermione said, understanding immediately. "We have to cut through them, but we can only do it together." The three friends approached the scissors, which were too large for any one of them to handle alone. As they grasped the handles together, the scissors began to glow with a warm, powerful light. "On 3, Harry said. 1, 2, 3. They squeezed the handles together, and the scissors cut through the air with a sound like thunder. Instantly, all the chains and barriers in the room began to crumble, dissolving into sparkling dust that swirled around them like a magical snowstorm. As the dust settled, a final door appeared, not golden this time, but simple wood, marked only with a small sign that read, "Truth." "This is it," Harry said, their heart pounding. "Whatever's behind this door, we face it together." "Together," Hermione and Rahmad echoed. Harry reached for the handle, ready to confront whatever final challenge awaited them in their quest to protect the gender-critical stone and defend the rights of marginalized magical beings everywhere. But as the door swung open, they realized that their greatest test was still ahead of them, because standing in the room beyond, his back turned to them as he examined a mirror that seemed to show not reflections but desires, was someone they had never expected to find here.